we got a good topic today, Caleb. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, great topic today, guys. So today the topic is how to turn cold traffic, so people that are total strangers to you. How do you take a stranger and get them to be warmed up to wanting to buy stuff with you, right? So kind of the idea that every business wants to figure out, right? How do I take someone that doesn't know me, get them to know me and like me so that they want to buy some of my stuff, right? So we're going to be talking about that today. And the cool thing about it is we have an ebook. So we created an ebook. A big, massive thank you shout out also goes to Ryan on our team. He kind of led the charge with getting this made.
Yes.
But we've got an ebook that we want to share with you guys today, and we're going to kind of roll through it. It's free as well, so if you want to download the book too, we'll put it in the link in the description of this training. If it's not already there, we'll just do it at the end of the training. And yeah, we're going to kind of just roll through it, show you guys kind of the funnel type that we use that's literally designed to do exactly that. So before we dive into the ebook, Dakota, do you want to say anything specifically about the VSL funnel and why we choose this option above what a lot of other people do in the space?
Yes. Yeah, I think it really comes down to advertise, like sort of like a thought on advertising and what it's for. First and foremost, a lot of people talk about advertising and their brains go to commercials or things that, billboards, things that you're just used to growing up seeing. What we're talking about with advertising is more direct response. And what we mean by that is that we really, when we put an ad out there in this world, we want people to do something with it. We want them to respond, right? And so the VSL funnel is really the quickest way to take somebody who's never heard of your thing before or whatever you're running ads for before, build their interest quickly, educate them on your service quickly, and then ask them to do something, right? Yep. So if you only run an ad that just builds awareness, you might be getting eyeballs on your thing, but nothing's going to happen with that, right? You're just ultimately wasting money getting in front of people. What we're trying to do with the VSL funnel is build that attention, but in one fell swoop, we take that attention and we put it through something like the VSL funnel that builds education, builds like awareness of your solution and gets them interested in what you have to offer. So in one fell swoop, somebody can go from not knowing about your business or your offer or your product to being like, oh man, I need this today. I want to talk to somebody about this, right? And so the VSL funnel is so strong, it's so powerful. And really, just another caveat here, this is usually for something that's higher ticket. By high ticket, we mean, probably something in the thousands of dollars price point, something that requires a little bit of like, real thought before you purchase it. Sure. We wouldn't use a VSL funnel usually for like a t-shirt, right? Because people kind of see a t-shirt and know what it is.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's exciting because you're basically taking that buyer journey that most companies spend a long time trying to build that trust and shrinking it down as quickly as possible to say, how do I get someone from cold to hot very, very quickly? So I know we've got a couple more people here that have joined. Maybe you didn't hear us in the beginning, but we are going to be sharing, and I'll start to share my screen now to go over one second, let me share my entire screen one. We're going to go over this ebook here. So I've got it zoomed in here for you, but we'll give you guys this download. It's free just for being in the AdClass group. But this literally walks you through step by step all of the different steps of the VSL funnel. It's going to talk about kind of what you can expect along the way. What do certain KPIs look like, right? So so yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. Any other like quick notes, Dakota, before we start diving in?
We've got 7 people on here, so let's give the people what they want. We're going to talk through the profitable VSL funnel framework. Once again, guys, this is really for like cold traffic ads. So what we're looking at here is how do we take someone who's cold, meaning they don't know about you, they don't know about your offer, teach them and qualify them, get them to basically book a call, usually with your team is what we're looking at here.
Exactly. Cool. So on the first page here, we've just got a high level breakdown. Tried to zoom in as much as I can. Some of this text might be a little bit hard to read, but basically at a high level, this is kind of what the VSL funnel looks like. If it looks a little bit scary or overwhelming, don't worry. We're going to break down each step along the way. So let's go ahead and move into part 1. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is ads, right? So the ads channels that we usually use to send to this type of funnel are the ones that you see on the screen here. So most frequently, we start with Facebook and Instagram ads, simply because lower barrier to entry, right? We've talked a little about that on previous trainings, but you don't need video there. YouTube, we use a ton as well. Probably about half of the spend that Dakota and I have spent over the course of our careers has gone to YouTube. Really great platform. Google search, I would say, is probably the next most used thing that we do as well. And then TikTok is on the come up. Still wouldn't say one of the primary channels that we spend on, but about for the clients that are running TikTok, usually it's about 20% of their advertising budget goes there. And then for certain clients, LinkedIn has been really great as well, depending on what business niche you're in. So we use these channels. We typically see a unique click-through rate of at least 1%. So if you're sending people to the VSL funnel, if you're getting at least a 1% CTR or click-through rate, then you're in a good spot to where the funnel should be able to operate. Anything else on the ads high level, Dakota, that you want to kind of jump through?
Yeah, and just to touch on what you said about starting with Instagram and Facebook, I feel like that's a question most people have, is like, where do I even start, right? And we've talked about this a little bit, but you really want to start somewhere that is both user friendly, so that if you're learning advertising, you can quickly get some wins, and also doesn't require as much upfront work to get launched. And so Facebook, or now as it's known, Meta Business Manager, that is easily the best place to start for advertising, just because once you learn Facebook, you really have a skill set that you can apply to almost any other ad platform. Not only that, but on Facebook and Instagram, you're going to be able to test copy, or ad word, like ad copy, with images, instead of having to have videos like Caleb mentioned. So if you want to test a YouTube ad, you have to record the ad, get somebody to edit it, whatever. What if that one doesn't work? Well, then you have to do it again. What if that one doesn't work? You have to do it again, right? Whereas on Facebook, you can get something out there right away with an image and some copy, and test multiple variations without ever having to record something. Once a variation works, okay, great, record it, put it on YouTube, right? Now you already know it's going to work. And so that's why we always say start with Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, Caleb mentioned that click-through rate, at least 1%. That's really, click-through rate on average, I think on Facebook and Instagram ads is like 0.8%. So you really need to beat the average for sure. You need to be up above 1% in order for the rest of this funnel to work.
Yep. Awesome. Cool, guys. And if you have any questions on any of this, I know we're going to be covering a lot of different steps here of the VSL funnel in this training. So if you have questions, pop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer those live here for you guys. Cool. So that's the first step, right? Is the ads. But then quick tip is never link anything external on your conversion pages 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this is a quick tip for the funnel, meaning a lot of times when you visit a website, right? Traditionally, what you'll see is that they have things like a logo in the top left that you can click to take you home. You'll see like a top menu that maybe has options like About Us and testimonials or whatever, right? That's a traditional website. A lot of people get confused when launching a VSL funnel because they think that you should have those same things here, but you do not want those things, because what it does is it creates what we call a leaky funnel, which means that someone can land on your page here and then they can click links that take them out of the path that you want them to go through. So this funnel is designed specifically for every single step to have a purpose, and that you want the person on that page to do that one thing and nothing else, right? And so if you have other links, people are going to go, and that's what we call a leaky funnel. You're losing people out of the funnel, okay? And it's going to increase your cost per action, right? Because if people leave, that's less people doing what you want them to do, which drives up your cost to do those actions. Okay. Anything on that leaky funnel?
That's great.
Cool. All right. Now let's start with the landing page. Okay. So you've got that 1% click-through rate happening on the ads, right? Where are we sending them? Okay. We're sending them to what's called a landing page. Now, what can we expect on the landing page? Well, on average, what we like to see is about 20 to 35% opt-in rate. Okay. 20% being, hey, if you're above this, you can expect that you're in KPI. Okay.
Yep.
If you're absolutely crushing and dominating the landing page, then you're going to be up above 30%. Okay. It's really rare to see any landing pages that are approaching 40% plus. That's just kind of really honestly unheard of. So if you're in 30%, you're crushing life. If you're at 20%, you can get the funnel to work. Below 20%, let's make some optimizations to the landing page. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know, Dakota, if you want to jump in on this stuff here.
Yeah, no, and I mean, people's thought is probably, what do I put on the landing page? So that's what we're going to look at here.
Yeah. So landing page, basically the whole idea is you quickly communicate the value that a lead is going to receive by watching your content. So remember, this is a VSL funnel, right? VSL, if you're new here, video sales letter, that's all that it stands for. And so the video sales letter is the main core content of your funnel. And if you want people to get to that, then this landing page has to entice them and excite them enough to want to go ahead and move forward. Okay. So as you can see on the screen here, these are just a couple examples this is actually one example of a client that we've helped. Alfonso's there looking like an absolute stud. We love that guy. He's just chilling there. And he runs a company called Scale with Funding, which helps people with credit. So if you ever need credit help, go reach out to them. But the most common headline template that we see, that we use time and time again, it's tried and true, is basically how to, and then you're going to say, get a result, right? Or whatever that desirable outcome is without the market's biggest pain point, right? Mm-hmm. So in this case, for a credit offer, how to get access to $100,000 in business credit. And then we put here with 0% interest. So it's a little bit of a slight tweak or a variation there, but almost all the time what we'll start with is we'll say without some sort of pain that's happening inside of the market, right? So here it could be how to get access to 100K in business credit without having to go through all of the paperwork, or without having, you know what I mean? Like, just think through what.
Another example would be like for AdClass, we do how to run ads without hiring an agency, right? Because the pain point for most people is spending a bunch of money on agencies. So it's it's sort of like, and sometimes that without might seem too good to be true, but that's also a piece of why the VSL funnel works so well, because they want to learn more based on that qualifier.
Exactly. So that's the landing page, guys. It's basically a page you want to get 20 to 30% opt-in. Very simple. Don't have external links to let people link away. You're asking them for one thing. Remember, take this action. We want you to do this thing. And the idea is get them excited about what's coming up in the VSL, right? So that they actually go ahead and want to watch your content. That's it. You don't have to overthink it. Don't have to have a million testimonials. Don't have to have a super long form page with a million words on it. This works right here.
Yes. And also it's, we keep saying the word opt-in. All we mean by that is someone puts in their email and you basically collect that email in exchange for giving them the next page of the funnel, which is going to be your free training or your VSL. So basically there are changes you can make to this page that might reduce your opt-in rate. Those changes might be asking for more information, right? So this funnel page we have right here, we're just asking for email. If we're only asking for email, the opt-in percentage is going to be pretty dang high. If it's a good landing page, it should be 25, 30, 35%. If we add something else to this field, like we also want to know phone number so that we can call people, that's going to reduce that opt-in percentage by quite a bit, right? So you just kind of have to decide what is enough information for you to reach back out to these people in case they don't go on through the rest of the funnel, right? And so email is a good low barrier of entry, but you can always ask for first name, last name, phone number, things like that as well. Just keeping in mind that your opt-in percentage or the percentage of people that make it past this page is going to go down if you do that.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so moving on to step 2 of the funnel. So if you're tracking along, or if you're just joining us, we're going through the VSL funnel. The person has seen your ad, they clicked it, they got to the landing page, they opted in, and now they've hit the main page of your funnel, which is the VSL page. Okay, so what does this page look like? It is literally, again, a very simple page, no external links. You have a little headline up top to remind them what that training is. And then you've got your video. Okay. You don't have to overthink it. That's literally all that you need on the page for right now. Okay. So what can you expect on this page? So typically what we see is that for people who opt in and land on this page, they on average, about 25 to 35% of those people decide, hey, I'd like to at least go the next step in the funnel. You've enticed me enough to want to go ahead and move to step 3. So that's a good KPI to think through, is if 25% of the people who get to your VSL actually decide to move on, then you're hitting KPIs. Okay. So the VSL page is where leads watch, you guessed it, the video sales letter, the VSL. So you always want to include a widget under the video that has a call to action to apply and take them to the next step. That's going to be what you see here in these images. Okay, so like I said, as you can see, the page is very simple. We have a logo, we have a title, and then we have the video, which is the video sales letter. And then below the video sales letter, all that we have is simple text that says, hey, if you're interested in applying these techniques, go ahead and click the apply now button, right? So again, very, very simple. All that we want them to do is watch the video. The video sales letter is going to do the job of teaching them what they came here to learn and entice them enough to say, hey, look, I trust this person now. I like this person now. I'm ready to see if they can actually help me. Let me go ahead and apply. So as you guys can see, right, the whole idea here of turning someone cold to hot, this is the page that really does the majority of the magic. Okay. This is the page where they decide if they think that you can help them or not, if you can solve their problem or not. Anything you want to add here?
Yeah, we did a past training on a VSL format. So that's something that you'll want to go back through and look at. That is the integral piece of this whole funnel, is the actual video sales letter. Those things range in length from 10 minutes to 45 minutes to some people do even longer, right? And really the job of that video is to teach people a proprietary method of doing things that they may not have heard about before. And so there's a specific science to the VSL for sure. And we teach that in AdClass, and we've done a training in the past on it. So it can't just be any old YouTube video. It can't just be, any old piece of content that you've created. It has to be very specifically designed to take people who have not heard about your thing, but have interest in the solution, and actually lay out fully, hey, here's who I am. Here's why you should trust me. Here's some testimonials of people who I've made this work for. And here's my unique proprietary system and why it will be different than any other thing you've tried, right? And so that is kind of what the VSL does. Now, the beautiful part is if you have a great offer, the VSL is easy. You just talk about your great offer, Yeah. And so it doesn't have to be overly complicated. But as Caleb said, this is the piece of the funnel that actually takes those cold, frigid people and warms them up. It's like setting them, by the fireplace, so to speak. Yeah. It might just take 20 minutes and now they're warm and they're ready to go.
Right. Exactly. I love that, actually. Yeah. The VSL is like taking your all of your leads and sitting them by the fireplace,
bring them into the cozy, warm cabin of warming them up.
Exactly. I love that. Cool. And like Dakota said, as we move to the next step here, like he said, we did do a whole video just talking about VSLs. So if you want to check that out, that's also here in the free AdClass group. We talk about a checklist. How do you actually, craft a VSL that's going to convert? Okay. Step 3, they've gone your landing page. They've watched your VSL. They think that you're a genius. They love you. They're ready to dive deeper into your expertise. So you are now sending them to the booking page. They've clicked that little button that's below the VSL video. And now they're here onto step 3. Okay, KPI for this page. Usually on average, we see about 35 to 50% of people that land on the schedule page decide to book a phone call. Okay, now the booking is not just necessarily a booking. Okay, there's a little bit more to it, because what we've done and what we've seen work really, really well time and time again for most people is that when you combine the application, or like basically qualifying questions, into the booking, you now kind of have this hybrid of, now you're getting an application from them, so you know how qualified they are for you and your offer, but also they're booking directly on your calendar. So you don't have to play the whole game of, hey, I'm following up with people, trying to get them. There's not all this outreach that's happening. They're booking directly on your calendar, and that booking is going to come direct with their answers to your application. Okay. So booking pages where you embed your scheduling app always include at least 3 to 5 lead qualifying questions to help you understand how ready each lead is to purchase your offer. So again, you see the theme here. The page is very simple. There are not external links. People cannot go out and leave. Remember, we don't want the leaky funnel. It's a title that says schedule your strategy session. You can call that strategy session a discovery session, whatever is applicable to your offer, right? And then we embed the calendar on it. Some of the most popular calendar options that we see are Schedule Once, Calendly. We see some people using HubSpot as well. Dakota, I know I'm missing one. What?
Acuity.
Acuity. That's the other one. Yeah, that's the other one. That's I feel like it's like a marketing sales battle, because like marketing doesn't love Acuity, but sales teams seem to love Acuity. But anyways, yeah. And then as you can see, that's what I'm talking about on the left. But on the right hand side of these images, you see the questions, right? So you can't book a call unless you actually answer some of these questions. And this is why this is so powerful, because now as these bookings are coming into your calendar, you can review them and you can see, okay, does this person have the money to invest? Are they the profile or avatar that I'm actually hoping that I can talk to, right? If you're selling a product and an insurance agent books on your calendar and you're like, I know I can't help insurance agents. Cool. Well, now you don't have to waste the time getting on a call with the insurance agent because you already know. So that's why it's so powerful. And last note I'll make on the application questions is that it shows higher intent. People who've booked and filled out all of these questions obviously are more serious because they've taken the time to answer some questions that are pretty serious questions. As you can see on here, one of them here is how much revenue does your business generate? Someone's willing to answer that and book with you. How much more intent does that person have than somebody who is just booking a time and answering nothing, right? So yeah, so that's a couple of things. I don't know, in Dakota, if you want to jump into calendar discussion, but
No, I mean, ultimately, some of the things that might make this not work, the calendar page specifically, is if you don't have open slots available. That sounds way too simple. But think about it this way: since people are directly booking on a calendar to talk about, the offer that they're trying to learn about, they need to have slots open for them that work for most people's schedule. So, if you're targeting people who might have a 9-to-5 job, you might need some slots open after work so that people can actually talk to you, right? That seems overly simple, but you'd be surprised how many times that has been an issue. Because if somebody makes it, if they click your ad, they opt in, they watch your VSL, they make it to this page, you better believe that you need to have some open slots for them to choose from. Otherwise, you wasted all of that ad spend to get them up to this point, and you didn't get to the finish line. So that's number one.
important.
Number two is when we launch new offers, we're really trying to prove it out at the beginning and not overly qualify. So Caleb mentioned the qualifying questions. They're really good. Ultimately, eventually at scale, your sales floor or whoever's taking the calls and trying to sell the thing on the phone is going to be really happy when you qualify well. But at the beginning, it's almost like beggars can't be choosers. You really just want to get some phone calls booked so that you can start figuring out if your process is going to work or not. So I would recommend not starting with a lot of survey questions, a lot of questions that qualify people, because ultimately you're going to lose out on people who would have otherwise booked, most likely from those questions, right? So that's something I would recommend doing later on, after you get some wins.
For sure. Agree with that. And one final note on the application questions before we move on, guys, is what you'll see and what you probably notice by looking at the image is that all of the questions that we're asking here are multiple choice. You don't see a lot of free response, right? That's another error that we see a lot of coaches and consultants make, is they'll make their whole application or booking process these free response answers where it's like, hey, tell me what kind of business you own. And then it's a free response answer. Or, hey, how much revenue are you generating? Free response. That's an issue. Okay. And I'll explain why, because later down the road, right, once your offer is really pumping, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go back and look at the historical data of everyone that's booked with you. And you want to be able to start doing what's called lead scoring. Okay. You're going to be able to see how likely is someone going to buy based off of these questions, right? Because you're going to have, let's say you've got 500 booked calls, you'll have all that data and you'll see who's a buyer and who's not. The problem with free response is that when you export all of that data, it's very messy. Okay. Imagine that sheet that has all of everybody's free response stuff, right? It's all over the place. And so although it might be helpful for the rep on the call, it's very not helpful for data reasons. So when you have multiple choice, it's unified data that every single person that booked with you has had to select from one of these options. So when you go back to analyze your data, it's very, very clear who buys and who doesn't based off of what they're choosing. So looks like we got a question in the chat. What's happening there?
Yeah, Kristen has asked here. We can put it up here on the screen. So she says this is a little random, but if you have a program that's a little more time sensitive, like it starts at the beginning of the month or something, how many weeks or months would you open up this offer? Or would you recommend trying to make it an ongoing offer with set access time? Yeah. So really great question. This funnel specifically is meant to be evergreen. Evergreen meaning it can run all the time and anybody can roll at any time. So that's kind of why we run the VSL funnel, because ultimately it gets hard to cohort things with paid advertising, because we find that the best time to reach out to somebody and ask for something from somebody is right when they show interest. And so it is harder to do like a start and a stop, like something with time sensitive events. That being said, if you have to do that, if you're kind of fighting the parameter of time with paid advertising, you really want to kind of push really hard within 3 to 5 days of the actual thing's start time. Ultimately, like when we've done any ads for live events or workshops or things like that, we found that registrations that happen 2 weeks out don't show up at the event. But registrations that happen 3 days out are much more likely to show up. So ultimately, it kind of comes down to how close to the time are you. Typically, what we do is we start spend low, we prove it out, and then we ramp up ad spend really aggressively toward the, toward the start of the time that you're starting your offer, basically. So hopefully that helps, Kristen. But yeah, the VSL funnel, I would say, is probably not the funnel I would use for something like that.
Right.
So just throwing that out there.
Really great answer. And then the other thing I'll add is, because I've seen teams do this before, and when you get into those like time sensitive VSL funnel launches, what ends up happening is then you've got to do multiple launches constantly, which is very hard for a marketing person or a marketing team, because then you're writing new copy, new ads, new VSL, new email stuff, like every single time that you have to kind of relaunch for the time sensitive stuff. So but really good question. Okay, guys. So now someone's booked, right? So here we are in the VSL process. We are at step 4. Somebody has booked a call with you. They filled out the application. Okay, so what happens next? Once they've booked, we redirect them to what we call the success or pre-call page. Some people call it a pre-call homework page. Some people call it a prep step, right? But the idea here is that after they've booked, you still want to take it a step further to help them get prepared and try to indoctrinate them a little bit more into your thought process, your methodologies, right? So it's usually a detailed page that provides more value and explains next steps. So here's the sole focus, because a lot of times people get distracted with this. Okay, people are like, well, what am I want to put all these things on my landing page or whatever. Here's how to think about your success page. How can I make sure that the person that just booked actually shows up? Okay, because that's the biggest battle after they've booked, is getting them to show up to the call. Okay, our world is very busy. People have a lot going on. A lot of times people book and then they decide to not show. So this page that you're redirecting them to, the sole job is, how can I get this person so pumped about the call that they just booked that they are like, without a shadow of a doubt, going to be there, right? So some of the things that we put on the success page is a video, right? That'll explain, hey, this is what you can expect to experience on the call, right? Reiterate how much value they're going to get from talking to you. You can, again, showcase a little bit more of who you are to build that credibility. Talk about some of the success that you've had, right? Showcase those testimonials. Explain a little bit deeper about the offer, right? Get them to understand a little bit more about what you're going to be able to present them on the call. You can provide them with free downloads and resources, right? Like this ebook that we're scrolling through right now. This is a really great thing to give away to people to provide more value to them, right? This is really helpful. This goes through every single step of the process. Can you create something, a resource, a document, a script, anything that you feel like the person that booked with you is going to be like, wow, that's really cool. Like they just gave me this for free. That's awesome. Like that really helps me out. Those sorts of things build trust and rapport and help them to show up. But like we already talked about, testimonials. And then lastly, what we'll often do at the very bottom is now it's okay to link them out of the process, right? So you've already got them to do everything that you want. Now, if you want to link them to some of your other things, like, hey, by the way, you should go check out my YouTube channel. There's a lot more free content there. You can do that. Or, hey, we've got a Facebook group. Go ahead and go check out the free Facebook group or whatever. You can go ahead and do that as well. So here's a quick example of kind of what that looks like. But Dakota, I'm not sure if there's anything on the success page that you want to add there. So
no, that's great. But paired with this success page, you also want to be talking about or thinking about following up with them right away after booking. So we didn't put that in the PDF because it's not part of the funnel necessarily, but right when somebody books a call, there should be a text message going out to them either automatically or personally from you or your team. There should be an email going out and confirming, you should be asking them to add it to their calendar, confirming that they're going to show up to the call, all of that good stuff. Because the number one thing that most people struggle with on this funnel is show rate. And so ultimately we want people to show up to the calls. It's interesting how many people in the world out there will book a call and then just totally ghost it for whatever reason, but it happens, and it happens a lot. So getting people to commit to showing up is the number one thing, like Caleb said.
100%. So provide that value, show them who you are before that call. This is really just another chance to basically get them excited, right? So, okay. So they've booked, you've showed them the pre-call process. Then what happens next? Okay, well, like Dakota just said, you're following up and you're trying to get them to show up. And once they do show up to the call, you're going to hopefully sell them whatever it is that you are offering, right? Whatever your service is. So on average, what you can expect is call costs typically cost around 150. We see people that get way cheaper call costs, and then we see people that have a lot more expensive call costs. Okay.
Yep.
It varies. And the reason for this is because of a few things. One, it can be who you're going after, right? A lot of the times it's the market that you're in. Sometimes the market you're in is really cheap to market to. Other times it's really expensive to market to certain people, right? So that's a big thing. And then the other biggest factor that we find is how much friction you've added to your funnel. So and by friction, what we mean, I know that might sound weird. You're like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? What that means is how difficult have you made it for people to be able to go to the next step, right? Yep. So the more friction you add may mean like, hey, below that VSL, I'm actually not going to allow them to get to the booking page unless they've watched 10 minutes or whatever, right? Or, hey, like Dakota talked about on the landing page, I'm actually going to ask for phone number instead of just email, right? That's adding friction because it's an extra thing that they have to do. So the more difficult that you make it for them to move through the funnel, obviously the higher the call cost is going to be. And
also Caleb, on that note, it's not always a good thing to have cheaper calls. So a lot of people out there are going to say, oh man, I'm getting calls for $20 each, but nobody's buying. Well, yeah, it's because your funnel is not qualifying anybody, right? So part of the VSL funnel, the beauty of it is that it should be qualifying people just enough to where when they get on the phone with you or your team, they just want to know a little bit more about the offer. They want to know how specifically it works, and then they're ready to buy. And so ultimately, like if your calls are cheap and people are moving too quickly to your funnel and they're getting on the phone and they're not qualified, that's a marketing problem, because ultimately they think something that's not true about the offer. If the calls are that cheap, then they're sort of like, oh, this is probably free. Let me get on the phone and get it, in my business for free, right? Something like that. And so ultimately, like that $150 mark is actually the kind of the sweet spot that we've found, where the leads are just qualified enough and also still like going to convert, on the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true, man. That's so true. I'm glad that you brought that up, because there's so many people that come to the table with this discussion and say things like, well, man, like I can get calls for $20, right? And it's like, yeah, but
they're not good ones.
It's not the same thing. And then also on the flip side of that, you get people who have like $400 calls, right? But the thing is they're totally cool with $400 calls because their close rate is insanely high, and they're selling maybe a $10,000 package. And so they're like, I could pay $500 for a call if I need to, right? So it's all just dependent on how you've structured your offer and the quality of leads that are coming through. But yeah, averages around 150. Quick stat on like from someone who clicks your ad all the way to book a call, usually around 2 to 3% of people, right? So someone who clicks all the way to finishes the booking, usually about 2 to 3%. So that's just a good KPI to look at overall.
Yep.
And then, yeah, this kind of just highlights what Dakota was just talking about, right? Quality leads that are ready to convert. So to highlight everything that they've gone through, they should now, everyone who's gone through your funnel should know who you are. They should have seen some of your social proof. They should have associated themselves with the problem that your offer solves, right? So they understand that you solve that problem for them. They've watched your VSL, right? You're basically a soft sales pitch. It shouldn't really feel like a sales pitch. That's why we said soft sales pitch, but it should feel like just education and getting them to want to move to the next step. And then they've now applied because they want to learn how to essentially do it themselves. So that's kind of it. Now, the last thing before we wrap up is that, Dakota, you just really quickly mentioned a little bit about follow-up. One of the things that's in this first page here, which we could probably honestly do a whole nother live training just on this topic. But as you guys can see here on that first overview page, we have what's called the marketing email drip sequence. And it's coming directly off of that landing page. So Dakota talked a little bit about what comes after the booking page, right? Like, hey, follow up, make sure they show up, text them, call them, whatever, get them, make sure that they confirm the appointment. But on the front end of this as well, we have this, which is what we like to call a safety net. And what it does, like the best way to picture it, like if you're a visual person, is that after everybody opts in, your email drip is going to basically sit as a net below your funnel. And for people who don't make it all the way through, the marketing email drip sequence catches them in the net and then throws them back up into the VSL funnel. Okay, so someone might opt in, they might watch 2 minutes of the VSL, their kid says something, distracts them, and then they're out of the funnel, right? But then guess what? Maybe later that night, they get one of your emails. Hey, I'm so excited that you got to opt in for my training. Did you get to see it? Go back up, right? And then boom, the person clicks the email. Now they're right back into your funnel going through the steps. Okay. So the job of the marketing email drip sequence is to just make sure that people aren't falling through the cracks. Again, we talked about leaky funnel, right? This is kind of a combatant against the leaky funnel.
Yes, and it's so important. That's the whole point of that opt-in page, right? You have to have that opt-in page because now you can remarket to an email list that you own. So many people want to send straight to a purchase page or a book a call page, or send straight to a place where like they're asking for something right away. That's not a great idea in paid marketing, because so much of the power of paid marketing is being able to remarket to people who show interest. There's a reason why so many people ask for your email all the time. It's because they know that email is one of the most powerful tools to get you to commit to a purchase or an action of some kind.
Yeah. And email gets so overlooked because so many people nowadays think of email as like this outdated old thing that nobody checks. But let me tell you guys, email works. It works very well. It's very huge. So don't just leave that on the table. Okay, we got another question. Should all those email drips be directing to the VSL, or can it go directly to the call or offer? Really, really great question. I'm glad that you asked this question.
Yeah, it's a sophisticated one. I love that.
It's a very sophisticated question. And this question we've actually been through. So I can tell you, learning the hard way, okay, you don't always want to offer the call very early in your drip sequence, okay? Because what happens if you do that is you're going to get people who basically skip, right? They're skipping a step in the funnel, right? Because you might have someone that opted in, they haven't watched the VSL yet, but if you send them a booking link in email 1, you're getting people on the calendar now that have no clue what the heck is actually going on, right?
Yep.
So the best advice is to link to the VSL early, use your email to continue to indoctrinate, provide value, get them to see more about what you're doing, and then later, deeper in the funnel, give them the opportunity to book. And by funnel, I mean later in the email drip sequence, give them the opportunity to book later on. So that's the best advice that I can give you, because I don't know, Dakota, if you've learned the hard way, but I have, of having the sales team call me like, these leads aren't really good. And then I look back to where they came from and I'm like, crap, they were booking off of that first email link and I need to change it later. So
when in doubt, always send back to your video sales letter or some piece of content that's going to qualify the leads. Like, it can be a follow-up page. A lot of times we do follow-up pages in these funnels where it's like, an interview that you did, or a testimonial on how somebody's found success with your offer, and then it goes to a book a call page. But it has to be something that qualifies before they are able to book a call. The only exception to that is like email blasts that people do, which is like, hey, I really need bookings on the calendar today. Like, it doesn't matter where they come from. Let's just hit the whole email list with, an offer to book a call with a team. That's a little different. But for the VSL drip sequences, if you really wanted to get sophisticated with it, what I would do is tag people who have watched the VSL and who have not watched the VSL. So there are ways to do that, in your CRM. And then for the drips sequence for people who have never watched the VSL, obviously you send it back to the VSL. For those who have watched it and made it just, to the book a call page or whatever, send them to your book a call page, right? So you can do that easily in email CRMs. But ultimately, the job of the drip sequence, apart from getting people back up into your funnel, it's also to build trust, to show people different sides of who you are. Like, some of the best marketing emails are like, hey, check out my office. Here's all of my, my friends here hanging out at the office with me, and, whatever it is, like stuff that just shows that you're a real person, right? Because ultimately there's so much out there on the internet that is like too good to be true. And really what that email drip sequence does, it's like, hey, we're just real people, we're just hanging out. And it just so happens that we have a really good solution that might help you. And so that's kind of the job of the drip sequence. Yeah.
Perfectly said, man. Perfectly
Caleb,
said.
I wonder if it would be helpful to show them the AdClass funnel, in like opt in and go through it really quick.
Okay.
Kind of see a VSL funnel fully in action.
Yeah. I like it. Give me 1 second. Let me stop sharing and I'll pull it up.
While he's pulling that up too, Caleb, you mentioned a couple times the word, it's a funny word that we use in marketing, which shouldn't be used in other parts of life, which is indoctrinate, right? And so that word usually has negative connotations. But what we mean by that is basically,
that's so true.
Yeah, basically.
I forget that that's not like a marketing term that like a lot of people.
I think of like cults when I think of indoctrinating.
Yeah.
But basically, what we mean by that in marketing is like, building trust to the point where people believe what you're saying, right? And so it's actually a positive thing in a marketing funnel, but for whatever reason, the word indoctrinate got thrown around a few years ago and it just stuck. So that's why we say it. But ultimately, that I wanted to clarify that. And then the other thing that you mentioned, Caleb, is friction in the funnel. And one of the best ways to increase friction in a funnel, a VSL funnel specifically, is by not giving people an option to click through to the next page for a certain period of time. And so what we call that is the button pop. Okay, when does the button pop up? And usually that's on the VSL page. So on the VSL page, which we'll show you here in a second when Caleb pulls up his screen, you'll see the video, and your only option is to watch that video because there's no other buttons on that page. That ensures that people actually watch your video and hear what you have to say before they're able to click through and go on to book a call. So adding friction to that funnel, you can decide how long into the video do I want that button to stay, to stay away, and when do I want it to pop up. When that button pops up, that's when people start realizing, oh, I can click on something, and they might just move right on without watching your whole video, right? So that button pop time on the VSL page is like the number one way to either increase or decrease friction in a funnel, because the sooner it pops up, the faster people are going to make it through. The longer it takes to pop up, the more people are probably going to either watch your full video or leave the page, right? So it's going to increase your costs a little bit.
Exactly. So what I'm just doing here is I'm pulling up the different pages of the funnel so you can kind of see each of them. And then we can kind of chat really briefly so you guys can just see a live version. We won't talk as deeply as we did going over the ebook, but we will just kind of give you guys a high level overview. So basically this is that landing page that we talked about, right? And keep in mind, I'm showing you this on desktop, but 90+% of traffic views this on mobile. But I'll just show you guys kind of how it looks overall. So we've got our landing page here, we've got our copy, and we've got our opt-in, right? So someone goes ahead and they enter their email, they go ahead and hit watch, and then they hit page 2, which is our VSL. Okay, so someone basically clicks this, and as you can see, there's no button here below. There's a delay, right? It's the button pop that Dakota was just talking about. So someone can click this video.
Yep. By default, what do we put that button pop at usually, Caleb?
So it's a great question. I don't necessarily have a default, because to me, what I do is I base it off of how much traffic I think is going to move like through it. I guess what I'd say is like a safe bet is to start around 2 to 3 minutes. That's almost always where I put it to start. And then if we're getting really cheap calls, but like quality is not great, then we'll go ahead and increase the button pop time. But I don't often like to start with like 10-minute button pops, because at that point, the offer is still new. You don't know how many people are going to move through it. Just get some calls. You talked about it, right? Get bookings happening, collect data, and then go ahead and then start playing with your button pop after that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like adding 10, 15-minute button pops to just get started, in my opinion.
Yep. A couple other things on this page usually that we do. We usually remove the play bar from the video.
Yes. So which you'll see, you think it's here, but we're actually using Vitalytics right now, which has Vitalytics is built for marketers. So they have an option here to where you can keep the play bar, but it doesn't allow the person to skip. And as you guys just saw, the button just popped on the screen, right? So I believe this one's at like 2 minutes or something like that right now. But yeah, like you can't, like I can't click here to, like I'm clicking right now and I can't move it, but it kind of gives the illusion that like, you know
how much is left. Yeah.
So
because if they skip around, they're going to miss out. Like your VSL is structured in a certain way, and if they skip around, they're going to miss out on certain pieces. They're going to kind of get to the end and see, oh, this isn't what I thought it was or whatever, without actually listening to you.
Exactly. And so like if you're on Wistia, whatever, Vimeo, whatever you're using, this, like I said, is Vitalytics. So we have a couple of more options. It's really built for marketers, like I said, but just hide the play bar. Like if you're using Wistia or whatever, definitely hide the play bar, because people will skip. That's like, everyone just wants to get to the point, right? That's what everyone wants to do. But the idea of this is let them watch the whole thing, so that, because the VSL is very well thought through. And if someone misses 5 minutes of it, that could be a very pivotal 5 minutes that, now they're not going to go ahead and move to the next step. So that's the VSL page. We got our button below, apply now. If we click that, it goes ahead and opens up the schedule page. And here's where they can go ahead and book a call, right? They go ahead and click a time that works for them. We're apparently booked all the way out to Wednesday next week. So someone goes ahead and clicks one of these options, which the reason we just laughed about that is because we like to keep 2 to 3 days out as like the standard. Once you start booking out more than that, no-show rate jumps up in a big way. But anyways, you could click a time, you click confirm, and then you're going to go ahead and, what do you know? Answer the application questions that we talked about, right? Someone goes ahead and books, and then they end up on the thank you page. Okay, this is what that looks like, right? We don't actually have a video, so we did everything via text, but we just showcased, hey, this is what you can expect before your call. You can, what do you know? Download the profitable VSL funnel ebook that we just went through. And we've got some success stories for people to check out, some cool stats, and then ultimately a chance to also check out the free Facebook group, which we are providing value in as we speak. So that's it, guys. That's high level overview. That's what it looks like. Any final thoughts, Dakota? Anything to close us out?
No, man. I love that funnel. There's no other funnel that I would rather run for a high ticket business. I mean, that thing is a killer. So
it's a beast, and it's worked time and time again.